Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles joins us now from the Government Center in Uptown. Mayor, good to see you again.
It's good to be with you and your audience, Ben.
So fill us in. Where do we stand right now with the transit plan? I know timing is critical at this point. You've got to get approval by state lawmakers if we want to get this 1 cent sales tax on the November ballot. How are we progressing?
Well, we're continuing to define what we're trying to do, and especially so that we can be easily, if we get the opportunity to have this referendum, we want to make sure that people understand what we're trying to accomplish, which is number one, for all of our communities. If you think about how we have not had the opportunity to increase infrastructure, it has been something that we really will begin to think about. So we're talking about congestion and traffic and safety, and trying to make sure that people understand that these are opportunities for us to actually have better management of how we get to work, or how we plan for infrastructure. How do we do much of this? So I believe that, we're still working on the red line, the better bus program, so that people can come and ride our buses in safety and be, I think it ought to be something like when you see it in Europe, that you have a safe and clean place on a bus. So we're trying to get all of that put together. But more importantly, we've had really great discussions with many of the people in the legislature. And our hope is that we will continue to work with them and see them, let them see how much of a difference this could make for our economy as well. We're talking about roads and we're talking about trains. And that's what we want people to understand.
To that point, you guys have spent years talking about this and working on this. We're talking about billions of dollars. The price tag keeps on going up just because that's the way inflation works right now. But to your point, though, you need the General Assembly's okay. And that has, as you know, been evasive up until this point. Do you right now have any real tangible reason to believe your new efforts have won over Republican lawmakers in Raleigh?
Ben, I can't say what the Republicans in Raleigh are going to say and do, but I do believe that we have put forth an effort that shows them the opportunities that it provides. And it's because we've joined in with the entire region. Charlotte is a region now. So when you're talking about what we want to do, it's not just because of what we're going to do inside our city limits, but think about what Cornelius and Davison are doing in terms of their own infrastructure and their needs. So as we continue to grow, and we're going to grow in terms of a region, we have to work together for every part of it. It's not just Charlotte. I think that would probably be difficult. It's always been our difficulty, is if when we go by ourselves, we don't get things done. When we go with the region, I think there's real potential for access for our legislators to understand that this is a region. This is something that we have to do together.
If a referendum doesn't make it to the ballot this year, what happens? Is there a backup plan?
Next year is a backup plan. So if we can't do it this year, but we get the permission, we will put it on the ballot for our voters to decide if this is something that they believe that will have a good economic impact, that we will have better safety, and we will have better roads and buses.
You told me a few years ago,
as well as an extension to the Blue Line. We're going to extend the Blue Line as well.
Gotcha. You told me a few years ago that you felt like affordable housing was the most pressing issue facing Charlotte. The city has made inroads because of that. Do you feel like affordable housing is still the most pressing issue here?
What I've learned, I probably shouldn't have said that. That's what I should have learned with you, Ben. I would say that we cannot wait and choose one need over another. We're trying to work on a need that actually addresses all of these opportunities for us. The city is growing. Our growth is so extensive and people are coming. And so we can't choose one thing. I think that in terms of what my career has been about, affordable housing is absolutely one of the closest things that I do, but you cannot ignore the ability to have new jobs, to have people come in, and to be able to express that we can do many things as long as we have everything together. So last month, we had our Housing Service Division working with community leaders on our consolidated plan. A lot of that is from the federal government and what we have to do, but we are committed to serving the public, our residents, so that we can have more than one thing going at a time.
Just getting your reaction, we know Charlotte is filled with a lot of immigrant communities, and we've also seen nationwide these raids happen under the new Trump administration. Your message to some of those communities?
Well, I think our city initiatives have proven their standing in terms of we've been instrumental in fostering a city that where everyone can thrive and contribute. And if we are doing this, we also have to look at complying with federal requirements. So I believe that the city will continue to engage and support the immigrant community through any advances that we can to make it possible. This is a difficult time. We don't have definition yet. And when we get that definition, we will work through how we can prove that these members of our community are actually helping us be a better city.
Just a few quick questions. I know we're running short on time. Do you feel like it's incumbent upon local law enforcement to help ICE?
You know, I think that the Mecklenburg County Sheriff has that opportunity, and he has been very supportive of how he can actually work with the ICE folks. So, and I've had some conversations with other mayors, but it's important that we know as a local government that we don't enforce the immigration laws, that is a federal activity and something that we are all going to have to ponder and make sure that we do it with strength and appropriate opportunities.
The president revoking diversity efforts at the federal level, how does that impact, or does that impact the city of Charlotte? I know it's something you've spoken about in the past, and it's something you're passionate about.
Well, I am passionate about people getting fair and equitable treatment. I am very concerned that we have these opportunities that we have with our corridors to make sure that when we are working through, we're doing stuff to change disparity into opportunity. And that's where I think we are best with DEI efforts, that we are actually correcting things that we can prove were harmed for others.
All right, 2 questions left. You have to make a decision in a few months. Are you going to run for another term?
I will have to make a decision in a few months. That's correct.
The mayor leaving the door open there.
No commitment either way there. When I've asked her in the past, when she's run again, she always keeps the door open until the filing period, which happens over the summer, and she's not going to commit to it either way before then.
Well, she talked a lot about what the city is hoping for with this transit plan. It's something we've been covering for years. Why don't you kind of explain to us what the Republicans have been sort of hoping for as the alternative?
Yeah, so the city has this big, huge, sweeping $20 billion transit plan, I think is the new number, that includes the red line we've talked about, the silver line that would go from uptown to the airport, perhaps farther than that. It includes substantially a bigger bus service. And it comes with this huge price tag. And Raleigh has said for years now they're not on board with it, and we have to get the state's permission to put it on the ballot in front of voters. And they wanted it to be more centered on roads. The city has, in their view, accommodated that request, and they've come up with a formula of 40, 40, 40, 40% on roads, 40% on rail, and then 20% on buses and other routes. It's not clear to me, based on what the mayor just said to me, that it's going to be enough to appease Republicans, because you have a Republican General Assembly, you have a very Democratic City Council. Republicans, of course, known for being adverse to tax increases, and even Vicki Sawyer, who's sort of the Republican state senator leading the effort on this on behalf of the greater Charlotte-Mecklenburg region, has said on online posts in the last few days that she's not convinced she'll be able to convince her colleagues in the General Assembly, because they're just inherently against the idea of increased taxes. Even if it's something the people of Charlotte are okay with, Republicans in Raleigh are not yet on board with. So I'll be surprised, but it just because of past is prologue, then they're not going to go along with it. But maybe I'll be surprised. The city's got to do something though, because the traffic and the growth here is untenable. And
time is ticking to make a decision. I mean, hundreds of people, isn't it, a day moving to the Charlotte area?
Exactly. So you got to do something about it, and got to find some agreement. I've been shocked, covering this for years now, I've been shocked at the lack of consensus and lack of being on the same page between the people here in Charlotte and the people in Raleigh. It just baffles my mind that we get to a point like this where you have billions of dollars on the line and there's not a clear path that, Phil Berger up in the General Assembly, the Senate leader, and the new House Speaker as well, can't say, all right, Charlotte, you do this, we're going to be on board. We're on WCNC Plus, so we can talk about it. But there was a op-ed in the Observer last week by Andrew Dunn, and he laid out, he's conservative, he laid out what he feels like would be the best thing for Charlotte to do, and then what Raleigh could do in response. But that's not what's happening. And it doesn't seem like there's clear communication between what's going to be an acceptable plan, because if Raleigh doesn't accept it, it's not happening. It's that simple.
It looked like the mayor looked a little frustrated, herself as she discussed it. And she said, if it doesn't happen this year, it'll happen next year. Clearly, we talked about those sort of behind the scene talks that are happening. There's some faith there that they could move the needle here. We'll have to see how it shakes out.
Hopefully, knock on wood, they can finally do something that everybody can agree on.